Do you want a music or a non-music related question first? Because it's one or the other. It's both.
Okay, let's go non-music.
Okay, so what is something that you used to believe is true that you now realise is not?
Oh, man.
This could go in any direction as well.
That is such a difficult question to answer because there are so many things.
11, but it's actually half past.
Yeah. I think I used to think that it wasn't really possible to make a living from music. So it's not a musical question, but I'm answering it music. I used to think that the industry was dead and, record labels had gone and CDs, there's no physical media and all this kind of stuff. But now I think it's just moved. I think everything's migrated to a different place. So I think it's reforming in a different shape. And when you learn that shape, then you can still make a living from music.
That's an interesting perspective because obviously, like, a lot of the cliched kind of, how to make it in any industry is you've got to believe in yourself. And if your first thought is, I don't think I can make a living doing this, that's obviously kind of counter to the cliched, and obviously I suppose you can believe in yourself and still not think there's a way to do it. They can both exist. But that's a weird sort of paradox in my head. Which is, how do you kind of navigate that feeling of not thinking that the industry is necessarily going to support what you want to do, but still pursuing it anyway?
So the flip is that you are the industry now. It very much used to be. I mean, I'm in my 40s, and when I was in my late teens and early 20s, it was play as many gigs as possible, and you're waiting for that guy with a rucksack to go, "Hey, I'm from EMI, and I'm signing you for a $2 million contract, 3-album deal, and I own your ass and your music, but you'll be happy because you have money." And thank God I dodged half. Well, I didn't really. I dodged half of that bullet. But now you are the industry. So you can shoot a music video, you can record an album, you can release the music, you can release the music videos, you can make your own merch. Everything has become accessible. And that is just continuing as a trend. People are able to do everything that they want to do themselves. No one will ever care about your music as much as you do, or your art, or anything that you create. So it's tremendously empowering. And I think that the problem that creatives face now is escaping the old mindset of, I want to get signed, and embracing the new mindset of, I just got signed to myself. What's my first job? What would a label manager tell me to do? Get a stylist, try and look as healthy as you can, have loads of energy. Let's have a plan for what we're going to release. Let's think about the visual signature, the branding. Let's think about where I want my artistic direction to go truly, not what I think people would like me to make, because that's all bullshit. So what really gets me excited as a musician? And then how can I, in not the most affordable way, but how can I do that in a cost-effective way without really damaging the art?
That's a tricky one to tie in with your with your guitar business as well, because like obviously, it's literally your name as well. You want it to be something that is part, that you believe that is the thing that you want to make, right? But obviously you guys do quite a collaborative thing. So there's obviously that balance of it's got to be somewhat. I'm just kind of, what's the word? When you just make a statement and hope it's that thing. But my kind of, what I think I would maybe find difficult is that balance of injecting your personality, where, because obviously it's the thing that it was in the inception was in your head, but then you're trying to make this collaborative kind of brand. How do you balance like injecting your personality and like what you think is best with?
So I think I'll start by saying I'm not trying to make a collaborative brand. It is in my nature to be collaborative. I really like people, and I think guitarists really know their shit. Like of any market, if you got 10 guitar players and said, "Oh, tell me what you think about the neck on a S-type guitar," you're going to get so much fucking info. It's a joke. They know what they like, and we are obsessed with gear and how it makes us feel, and then how that makes you play. Or at least I am. Mm. And so I think I fell upon collaborative design in the beginning. And obviously, not obviously, but I think it made a better product because I learned things from people. I definitely didn't know anything when I started off, about making guitars. Now I could make a guitar. But back then I didn't know anything. And I learned a lot from working with thousands and thousands of guitar players at every level of ability, because it's really important to get info from people that are just starting to learn, because you forget, what that was like. I mean, it's,
I was just going to say, do you feel like you kind of have always got your energy off of other people? Are you kind of an extroverted person? Is that maybe what drove you into that direction?
I'm not an energy vampire. Not yet, anyway. Maybe when I get a bit older. I am definitely a people person. I feel full of energy when I'm around people. Anyone that's been to any of my clinic tours or band tours will probably attest to that. I'm a serial hugger. In fact, I got in a lot of problems just hugging hundreds of people on tour, getting pneumonia in Glasgow and getting flown back. I think I'm a very positive person. So I tend to feel quite almost, maybe some would say, overly optimistic and positive. Lee likes to make fun of that. He's like, he's the bad cop, he's the dad, I'm the mum, I'm the happy, sort of go-lucky kind of over-the-top guy. And sometimes that falls short and people think that I'm taking the piss or something. I'm not. I'm just generally quite a happy person. But I like being around people. And I think music is all about communication between people. So if you don't like that, I don't think it's the right industry for you. But Chapman never set out to do anything other than make amazing guitars that I hope people love. And I don't love all of the guitars that we make, and I shouldn't, because it's not about making guitars for me. It's about making guitars for the people that want to buy them. And then if I really feel like there's something I want to make for me, I make it for me. And I know a guy, so I make the ML3RC or the Ghost Fret, or recently the ML1 Pro X, or more recently something super exciting. And then I get my kicks that way. But it's super interesting working collaboratively. And by the way, it isn't just through polls online, because I said this in a video with Lee just a few days ago, but I might be in Lidl buying some bananas, and the guy will go, "Hey Chappers, sorry man, just had to interrupt and ask, do you think you'll ever make a SG or whatever?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, it's a good idea, man. I'll put it in a poll, or I'll talk to the guys." They go, "Thanks, bye," and then they sort of side off. That happens without exaggeration, probably 4 or 5 times a week, and all of those add up, and they become this little narrative in my head of things that I think people like, and often they follow a trend, which is kind of interesting too. So.
Yeah, there's a weird because it's funny you say that you're just a collaborative person by nature, but I suppose, I can sort of propose to you an alternate universe where if you were a different person, say, but you still wanted to go about the collaborative sort of guitar world thing, obviously you would have built a different audience because different people would have liked you, and those different people might have liked different guitars. So actually, I suppose by that nature, you might have then had a different guitar company, which could have been interesting.
Yeah. Probably.
Weird. But what I was going to go to was, I thought this would be funny to tell anyway, because I don't know if you remember, we have bumped into each other like once or twice. And I mean bumped into, it's not like we sat down, so don't feel bad if you don't remember.
Was it in Lidl?
Was it?
Was it in Lidl?
Yeah, I was inspecting the fruit, like, but no, there was one time which was really funny, and I can't remember if I told you this the other time I bumped into you, but I was in Anderton's, I was holding an ML3 beer, kind of just looking at it, like checking it out, and you just walked up from behind and went, "Don't buy that, it's shit," and then walked on.
Sorry.
That cracked. No, it's funny. It cracked me up. And then yeah, and I actually have a friend who's got an ML3B, and I'm a big fan of that. But the other time was this sounds sort of positive, but also kind of not from my end, because we met at the guitar show in Birmingham.
Birmingham.
COVID, yeah.
Man, that was a really hard show because I was absolutely surrounded for like days and days.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I like being surrounded by men, but a lot of the time I was like, I really could do with a piss, and then you got to kind of hold it and make excuses to go for a wee or something, you know.
Yeah, but what I do, you were saying you go around sort of hugging people and everything, but I do remember I said to you, like, because I was still at music school, I think, at the time, and I was like, what would your advice be? And I can't honestly remember what you told me, but I do remember you put your hand on my shoulder and had something with a big smile on your face. So that does kind of attest to the fact that you said you're positive, because whatever it was, I kind of left thinking, yeah. So whatever it was you said, I don't remember, but I remember like...
That's really interesting. It's like I wiped your memory with a hand placement. I probably I probably won't give up, it'll never happen, you know, and then just, but smiled. Yes.
This is not the career you're looking for. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that you didn't hear the advice, but the advice almost certainly would have been sign yourself, do everything yourself, but treat it as if it is a job, because I think a lot of lots of musicians, they're like, yeah, I'm in a band. Fuck yeah, let's go and play some gigs. And look at all I need more gear. Give me the gear. There's a gear. Yeah. Have you released anything? Nah, not yet. I'm still working on this. I've got a bunch of riffs. I can't turn them into a tune. I can't find the end of the tune. You know? And then they keep buying gear and practicing loads of technique, and they don't put anything out. And I always have this analogy of like, look at any business that just anyone could kind of, well, not anybody, but a lot of people could run, you know, a cafe or a taxi rank, or things that just always make money because people always need them. A supermarket. You wouldn't find many supermarkets that sort of, you know, open a building, put a can of beans up, and then don't put anything else out, you know, or a taxi rank with like one car, you know. You need to treat the signing yourself and being a musician as if it were a job, and think, all right, taxes, content, social media. I've got to learn some skills. I need to learn how to use, you know, Adobe Premiere, Final Cut Pro, whatever soaks your biscuit. You know, let's learn how to use Logic, and let's learn the tools.
Whatever soaked your biscuit before.
So that you don't have to pay somebody else to do it for you. Knowledge is money. You know, that's the way I think about it. But then if there's a real skill that you just cannot acquire, pay someone to do it for you. That's the thing. Don't struggle and do something half-assed. That would have been my advice.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with for what it's worth where I'm at. But like, you know, I've seen plenty of bands where you just know that it feels like your mates in a band, you know, or whatever, you know, rather than it feels like this, you know, there's only a certain level. Well, obviously, what you want to try and achieve as a band is it kind of at the end of the day is like a product. Obviously, that feels very like sterile and sort of not so artistic and exciting. But like sometimes I see bands and I'm just like, unless you change something about this and make it more, like, I guess, like treat it like a business, I just can't see it going anywhere, because you know you see they'll kind of like, I don't know, half-ass it with certain things, and then you kind of think it's annoying, because I know a few bands actually where the music's really good, but what they probably need to my ear anyway is like a good producer, not just for the quality, but actually to say, okay, let's chop that bridge out because that's not
pre-production.
Yeah, pre-production, but then also the images and stuff. But it does cost money as well, which is the other thing. But I realised actually this is kind of tying in a little bit because I never asked that second question, and I thought it'd be an interesting one, which was, what is your most underrated work? And obviously, I could ask you that as an artist, but I'd kind of open that up to like just with everything you've done, YouTube, kind of business side of things, artist, whatever. What do you think is your most underrated act?
From a musical point of view, I think my Monkey Lord EP, probably. It was such an unbelievably challenging recording. I mean, I was in tears for like hours doing that through sheer emotional output while I was recording, and I've never had that experience before. It was unlike anything I have ever experienced musically. I mean, myself and a pair of incredibly talented producers, electronic artists, constructed this concept of landscape areas that I would explore musically. So, but it all had to be made from natural sounds. I didn't want a drum kit. I didn't want a bass guitar. So it was a forest clearing, and you hear the grass and the wind and the leaves and the tree falling and sticks and rocks and stuff. Or it was a glacial cave with ice crystals and waves and stuff. And then we created a modal concept, and then chord progression, and then, you know, soundscape, ambience, and beats, which was incredibly hard. And a lot of that wasn't me. That was this production team that I worked with. And then I jumped into the studio without any, I didn't want to go in there with any pre-written material, because what I wanted to do was just improvise the entire thing. So I did. Went in there with an ML1 standard, one of the cheapest guitars I make, because I wanted to prove to myself that it was worthy of doing anything. And I used an RD1, Victory, little RD1. And I just played my ass off. And in my mind, I think it's some of my best playing. I was trying to sing through my hand, as if I was vocally, I wasn't playing licks, you know, I was singing melody. I even had lyric in my head when I was doing a lot of it. And I think of all of the tracks, you know, 3 of them ended up being, to my ear, really good. And the intention originally was for them to be like, you know, syncable, gaming, landscapes, like Diablo, that kind of areas, you know. And I think it kind of really did that. I didn't do a very good job of marketing it, and I didn't do a good job of telling anybody about it. And so no one really knows that it exists. But yeah, but one of the tracks was called Chromatic Aberration. And if anybody ever wanted to listen to me playing instrumental ambient guitar, that's it. The other thing was an EP I recorded about 8 years ago called At Arm's Reach, which was a test where I sat on a chair and I could only record using anything I could reach. So I had an acoustic guitar, I had a £12.50 microphone from Woolworths, I had a cardboard box and a stick, I had a fan, and I kind of Charlie Puth made everything, you know, hit the stick on the box, got a bass drum, stuck the mic onto the acoustic guitar with gaffer tape and then hit that, sang into the sound hole. And I made 3 or 4 tracks that really made me work as a vocalist and as a musician, not just a guitar player, but as a musician. And I love that EP. But away from music, some of the videos I made with Luke, where we're in a guitar shop in Malta, and we would do it. I got fed up of doing straight ahead, like, hey, here's the new black tube screamer. It's better because it's black and it has one knob rather, I don't know, whatever. So we got sent this delay pedal called the Delarian, which was modeled on the DeLorean car from Back to the Future. And I said, oh, fuck, let's just spend all the money, hire a film crew, and shoot a mini movie. And it was so much fun, so much fun. And it didn't really get the views, but I even composed music for this short movie with Luke, like sort of synth wave type, gunship type stuff, and scripted it. And oh man, it was just amazing. I think that deserved billions of views, personally.
It's funny. I have a producer friend who produced my old band's EP, and he is obsessed with Back to the Future, like to the point where he's probably, I'd be willing to bet up to 20 DeLoreans in that studio. And he's got Back to the Future posters on the wall. All of his guitars are Silverburst, as in, like, you know,
right,
in silver. Phenomenal producer as well, like really talented guy. But yeah, absolutely obsessed. So maybe you've got
to say his name. You can't say someone's a good producer and then not promote them on your podcast.
Tom Gittins is his name. I've said him a few times, so hopefully maybe a few people.
Okay, now people will know.
Yes, he's phenomenally talented. But it's kind of going back to the what you were saying about your the Monkey Lord EP. Can I ask what? I mean, we don't have to get too personal, but you were saying about it made you very sort of emotional going through that process. Is that something that you'd want to go into, or is that kind of too?
Sure, no, sure. I don't, you know, I'm a very open person about all sorts of things. When I write, I almost feel like I don't write music, although I have released an EP, sometimes 2 every year for the past 10 years, which is weird. It's a lot of output. I never sit down to write music. I just kind of get this feeling and I go, oh, I'm going to write a song. And I grab a guitar, I grab a phone with a, you know, recording, whether it's video or whatever, and I just get a whole song, chord progression, lyrics, vocal melody. Sometimes it'll be a verse and a bridge. Sometimes it'll be the whole thing. Sometimes it will be a chorus, but more often than not, it's the first third to 2/3 of a track. And I have a feeling, I've thought a lot about this because I've tried to make it happen and it just doesn't. I don't have any control over it, nor do I have any control over what it is that I write. So sometimes it will come out progressive, hard rock, you know, Dorje style stuff. Sometimes it will come out Americana blues rock, Clockwork, Wolf and Company. Sometimes it will be non-lyrical. Sometimes it will be, you know, 80s synthwave. I don't have any control of it. But what I think it is a subconscious catharsis of either anger or pain. And I seem to process one or other of those emotions into something that just becomes a song. And then after I have this experience and write it down and get all the bits done, I kind of come out of this place, take a deep breath, and I'm like, fucking hell, what was that? And I look at the lyrics and I read them and I'm like, wow, yeah. That's about when, I don't know, my dog, one of my 6 departed canines, perished, or being cancelled by people online, or, you know, COVID, or heartache, or family loss, or, you know, my daughter going to hospital, or all these different things. I think somewhere in my mind, or even not in my mind, it's being processed and put into something that I can then understand and come to terms with the loss or the pain or the anger or whatever. So all I know is if I'm sad, it turns into the Americana blues rock thing. And if I'm angry, it turns into the hard rock progressive thing. It's a weird experience, and it makes me feel strange because I then feel like I don't really write any music. Music kind of comes through me, and that sounds really arsey, but it's just the truth, you know. And I've forgotten the question now. I'm sorry.
I knew you answered. You know, I mean, I was kind of just. I didn't really ask a question. I was just saying about.
Emotions.
What about getting? Yeah.
Sure. Right. So with Monkey Lord, it was a difficult time in my life, and I think I was processing a lot of feelings of injustice, feelings of anger, and when you can play an instrument so that it just disappears and it's just you're just feeling and melody is happening, I was getting all of that cathartic experience, and it's being recorded and listened to by people very intently. And I think because of that, the experience was super emotional. That was really healing. I mean, I came out there feeling like, oh my God, I need a curry and a couple of beers and lie on a couch for a few hours. You know, it was just like mad. But I felt relieved and happy. I think probably that's why I'm generally quite a positive, happy dude. It's because I get everything out in this musical process, you know, or sometimes in a creative video process, you know, making a stupid video about going for a Jeep ride in Gozo, or, you know, just even a simple thing like demonstrating a pedal with Lee or whatever. It's things that are creative for me are a purge of darkness.
The Korg Miku video will always hold a special place in my heart. I was just showing my girlfriend that, and she was saying it was funny. She said she likes you. You've got a voice a bit like a Channel 4 presenter.
Well,
I don't know where that came from.
I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, but I had a good point. There we go. I'm going to go back to making good points rather than silly ones. The whole process you were talking about, you know, getting it on the paper and then looking at it like, whoa, that's what I'm thinking. It's quite like a meditative thing, isn't it? Because the whole point of meditation is to kind of acknowledge thoughts as they come and go, and obviously that's kind of in a more concrete manner.
Yeah,
kind of what you've done in that process of like sort of letting it happen, and then it's on the page in front of you, which is quite an interesting way of looking. Because I think I know a lot of people experience in their own way that cathartic kind of expression of whatever they're feeling in music, but I don't know, I haven't heard it described in the way that you kind of talked about, which is quite cool. But what do you think was maybe like the toughest learning experience throughout your kind of, whether it be music or business?
To let go of the people. Because I am a people person. I have always surrounded myself with as many of the people online who chose to follow me as possible. And 10 years in, I was still in the place that I was when I'd started, where I would try and reply to everybody's comment, and every single person that I met, I would hug them and talk to them for as long as they wanted to, and I would read everything, you know, and be super involved with everything online. And then it got to the point where I don't know about how much of this I want to discuss, but I remember clearly walking through town with my newborn baby and my wife. We got stopped 6 times for photographs. And I thought, now maybe it's a little bit more than I had hoped for. Not because they stopped me, because I love people stopping me and saying hi, but because they all stopped and asked my wife to photograph me with them. And I don't know why, but I think because I just had a baby, I kind of felt, although this was good for me, maybe this wasn't what my family needed. I don't know how to articulate that. And inevitably, when you become known and you have lots of people watching what you do, you know, of several 100,000 people, some of them are going to absolutely hate you. And at the time, I just couldn't process that. I'm a really nice guy and I love people and I'm super friendly and happy. And, you know, and then there are people that want to offer to knife me or wished cancer upon me and my family, or, you know, hope your dog dies, or this kind of stuff. And I really couldn't come to terms with it. And then I realized that, of course, you can't. This is not possible to understand everyone who you've never met. And they've never met me, so they have no idea. Really, it's just a mirror that they're talking about their own life and kind of reflecting it. And so I realized I couldn't read all the comments anymore. I couldn't respond to everybody. I couldn't involve myself that deeply anymore, because it's kind of a trap. And it's really easy to read 100 super positive comments and then read one. Like there was a comment yesterday that said, it was regarding a photograph of myself, Rabia, Lee, and Pete. And it said, Rob looks like a Make-A-Wish kid with cancer. What's it like being the least able musician amongst a sea of incredible talent? Mm. And I replied and I said, listen, are you okay? Do you need to talk to somebody? Because to say something like that to someone that you've never met speaks more of pain in you. So if you need to talk, I'm here. And this guy replied saying, I'm not sure if you're serious. And I said, no, I'm serious. And he never reached out to me and he deleted his comment. And I think that little moment encapsulates what I'm talking about. You cannot stop people from saying whatever they would like. You cannot always help everybody. And you definitely need to step away. You know. So I did. And in many ways, it made my life an awful lot better to do that. But also it kind of took a little bit of the joy away from YouTube, because I used to just love jumping into the sea of people and having a banter. And whenever I launched a video, I'd sit there for an hour and just chat with people, you know. But I don't know. And I think that's probably much healthier.
It's a weird thing where I was having this discussion with someone a while ago who was having trouble. They'd fallen out with another person, and it was not really their fault that they'd fallen out with this person. But I knew for a fact, and I'm pretty sure this is how it went, that the best way for them to resolve that and sort of fix that relationship, at least in the moment, was for them to go out with a sense of understanding of the other person actually, like, although this person didn't really deserve to have to go up to the person they're annoyed at and say, like, look, I understand, you know. I didn't say apologise, but I was like, you know, you need to go and say, okay, or at least maybe admit what you did wrong first, because there was a bit of a back and forth, you know. And this person didn't really want to do that at first, and it's kind of difficult, because obviously the first step for a lot of people is that you have to reach out to that person that you really don't want to, even if you don't actually, probably more likely to be the case, even if you don't deserve to have to do that at all.
Yeah, and almost all of these things are miscommunication, normally. I couldn't tell you how many times I've read a comment from somebody from a different country where they completely misunderstood British humour for arrogance or for horrible comment. But, you know, in England, we have this banter, you know, and we have this self-deprecating humour, but it doesn't translate. It doesn't go across in America or Germany very well. And issues like your friends, often it'll be like a little tiny thing that happened that was a miscommunication, and then it got bigger and bigger because they didn't talk about it. There was no communication afterwards. It's always the way.
So how do you kind of fill that? Obviously, you had that big space, that kind of a lot of mental energy that went into interactions with people online, that you then obviously chose to kind of step back from in some senses. How do you kind of fill that mental space that obviously was bringing you quite a lot of joy, you know, interacting with people, because obviously they all want to be involved, they like what you do. How do you kind of fill that, I don't want to say void, that sounds very depressing. And
well, now I have two unbelievably amazing kids, and you know, I'm super fortunate that my work can be from home, and so I spend a lot of time with my kids. And anyone that's got kids will know, you know, it's a saturation from from the minute they wake up and need a piss to, you know, the last piece of bedtime toast or whatever it is. You know, it's a lot. And I'm a super hands-on dad, change all the nappies, do all that kind of stuff. I love having kids. My childhood was awesome, and I feel really blessed that my kids are growing up, you know, in Malta with the sea and the sunshine and the fresh air, and they're really happy, and they have their parents around them a lot. You know, so that takes up a lot of my day, you know. And then I'm doing a lot more music. I mean, I'm in 4 bands. So I think to an extent, I realized this recently. I set out to be a musician. Never expected to end up with a guitar company. I never set out to launch a guitar company. It just happened to me. You know the story, don't you? And I never set out to be a YouTuber. I used YouTube to promote my music. You know, originally when I was back in the Black Hand or Hooker, it was, well, I can use this place to advertise the music and talk about it. But then when I started to get some success with YouTube, I started to get kind of addicted to it. And making a YouTube video is a lot easier than practicing vocals and going out playing a gig. And I think I fell into this trap of forgetting that I was a musician, and I didn't realize that I had become a creator, which I hate that term. And now I have a YouTube channel, but I am most definitely a musician, with, you know, Kriterion, with Gus and Felipe, Clockwork, Wolf and Company, Red Tower, Monkey Law Project, all these things, Neon Scream, it's 5. They take up a lot of time. And actually, this year, I recorded an album and 2 EPs. And next year, I'll be launching all of that with about 6 music videos. So all my time has been sort of sucked out of social media, or at least really the feeling of the requirement to continually create for my YouTube channel. And instead, I just put it into music because that's what I love, you know. Yeah, I think that answered the question.
I think it answered a question. The question, in a good way. I can't remember what the question was, but that's good.
What do you do with your time now that you're pulling yourself away from? Yeah.
Remember things better than me is what you do. But it's 2 things that made me think of. One, your friend Rabia said exactly the same thing. Like, in terms of his YouTube, what he is a musician, you know.
Yeah.
And which was interesting. It's interesting that you both kind of say. I say exactly. Obviously, you have different.
Well, it's not surprising because, you know, Bea and I lived together for years. I was with Rabia just a couple of days ago, hanging out in Guildford, and we had that conversation together. I was like, this sounds weird, but I think we went through that trap, and now we associate again with being a musician. YouTube was not a means to an end because I love making videos, but it was never the end game. The end game is just, there is no end. but it's the continual creation of music, you know.
The second point was that I feel the same in that I've not been doing this podcast. I mean, this podcast has been going for maybe like 7 months or so. But I'm doing it because I love doing it and I love these conversations and stuff. But I want to be an artist. That's like my thing. You know, I'm a guitar player.
Can I help you with that?
Huh?
Can I help you with that?
Like
you
now.
Don't want to be an artist. You are an artist.
Can you put your hand on my shoulder, please? It would make it.
But it's true. It's like, you know, you need to really, really look deep into yourself, switch off all of the senses one at a time, kind of sit back and let all the thoughts disappear, and then feel what's left. And when you feel what's left, then you ask it, does tomorrow exist? Does tomorrow truly exist? Because it doesn't. Tomorrow doesn't exist. It's a made-up construct, concept that we use to mitigate work. And if you fall for the trap of tomorrow, you will never manifest what you need in your life. There is no days. There is a long day divided by times in which you sleep. It's daylight all the time, somewhere. You use the concept of tomorrow and the concept of I want to be, or I wish I could, or I would like to just not. Whereas if you just accept and do, then you are. So rather than saying, like, I want to be a musician, you are a musician.
Mm.
It's as simple as that, because the difference is people that do and people that don't do.
Is obviously something that they often say the kind of the best people to give advice are the ones who've kind of gone through it themselves, and I'm going to assume through what you've said that you've sort of come to that realization your own way. I'm assuming you're not just saying it because someone else said it, you know, from the way you're saying it. Can you pinpoint a moment where you kind of put that together, or at least sort of actualized that in your behavior?
Yeah. So, well, more recently, having children, and again, do you have kids?
No.
You got a dog?
No.
So when you have kids, okay, before I had children, I'd be like, oh man, it's a bit messy. Oh, I'll tidy up tomorrow, you know. Oh, I've got to record this solo for a guest spot on Steel Panther's album. Oh, I'll do it next week. Oh, I've got to do a demo for this launch piece of gear. Oh, I'll do it another time. I would put things off. When you have kids, you just do it. You have to just do it. You can't not change the nappy. You can't not make the breakfast. You have to just do it. And so you have to change your psychology. Now, luckily, I had that installed in me previously through a lifetime of being interested in Taoism, Chinese martial arts, Chinese medicinal practices.
I thought that was something. I was going to ask you about that because I thought that was something. We'll go into that. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so I Taoism is all about, you know, non-action, but what that really means is just, you know, living in harmony with nature. It's a huge topic, but basically, get shit done. don't put stuff off, you know, because they're really, when you say I'll do it tomorrow, what you mean is I'm not going to do it. That's what you really mean. I'm not going to do it. Don't want to do it. But if you just fucking do it, then it gets done. And not enough people make lists of things they needed to do and get them done, and then they have panic attacks. It's like, you know, I got this phone, and if I swipe up, I've got all these apps, you know, and I have to get rid of all these apps that my son's left up, you know. There's so many apps he didn't get rid of.
The game.
Yeah. And a lot of people have that in their mind. Their mind is full of all these apps, ideas, you know, oh, my kids need food, or I've got to get some more money to pay that bill, or but they haven't swiped up the apps. So they can't sleep, and they have panic attacks and fear, and then they get angry because they're not moving with their life in the direction they would like. Whereas I'm very lucky and grateful that I learned at a very early age to remove thought from my mind and be able to just feel and do things, get it done, you know. Which is why I have a superpower that I can fall asleep on a countdown at any time.
3.
No, seriously.
I
can fall asleep on a countdown from 10 to 1 at will. And the only reason I can do that, and it really annoys my wife because she cannot sleep, is because I am able to remove all of the thoughts in my mind, relax my body, and then just let go, let the process happen. And although that's a useful thing, it's also, I think, where the music comes from, because you can't allow the transmission of that music if there's a lot of clutter in your head. And I'm basically a thoughtless zombie mind, you know, most of the time.
There's a couple of things that spring to mind. One that anyone that listens probably fell off me talking about, but I'll say briefly, because I've started doing like the whole cold shower, cold water thing.
Wim Hof.
Sort of, yeah. I've not tried like the breathing stuff. I tried it before, but I've not really.
It's really good.
I've done it, but I've not for an extended period. But I realised it was so funny actually, and you can probably relate to this actually. So I the whole cold shower thing. Obviously, you stand in front of it and you're like, and you want to do it, but you don't, because you know it's uncomfortable. And it was funny. So I've been trying. So I can sing okay, but I'm trying to become a good vocalist so I can potentially front a band. You know, I'm foremost a guitar player and a songwriter, but I like the idea of maybe doing what you've done in terms of, because obviously starting with guitar but then moving to vocals. And I remember I go to the studio at like 8 in the morning because that's the only time that I can get it for free, and the only people there are the cleaners, and obviously I'm making these ridiculous noises and singing quite badly, and it's the same feeling before I get in the shower. It's that like and it's the same thing. So I realised the kind of, because obviously people talk about the benefits of just like cold, just the cold, and I'm like, great, I don't care really about that. It's more about like, and I really, you talk about there's no tomorrow kind of thing. It's like, it's that ties in. And for me, that was what I thought of when you sort of said that, which I just thought was interesting. That kind of process of,
we all need discomfort. You should really seek it to an extent. You need discomfort to grow and to challenge yourself. And so I always try as much as possible to be the worst musician in the room, or to be at least amongst people that push me, drive me in a way where I feel just a little bit out of my depth, and then it's perfect. Yeah,
we need like a poster of you on a beach in Malta sipping a cocktail going, seek your discomfort, you know. See if people believe you.
Well, although, you know, with my,
that wasn't a swipe. No.
What's funny is that I discovered recently I've got, well, don't know how to say, I have twice as much Neanderthal DNA as an average human. My DNA tests have revealed to me. And I'm also 20% Irish, which I have no idea how that happened. And I'm also Indian, Chinese, and African, all of which I can explain through my family history, which is super mad. But what that means is I don't really do well in hot climates. So although, you know, it's super lovely, warm and hot and sunny, for me, that's not an optimal climate. I like it cold and crisp. Probably, you know, Scotland or somewhere is really where my genetic heritage would be happiest.
The day I burnt in an overcast was the day I realised the LA lifestyle might not be like, you know.
Mate, talking about burnt in an overcast, when I shot the Catalyst music video for Dorje, we were shooting another video the next day. And we shot that video, went for a beer. We were like, yeah, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a really good video. And Beer looked at me and went, mate, you're red as fuck. And I went, that's fine. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. And he went, mate. And the next day we were shooting the music video for the track All. And I was so sunburned. The production team got in a makeup artist and they were like, can you please sort out Rob's face? And she was like, no, it's just not possible. So we had to shoot it in black and white.
Oh, so that's the full...
That's why the music video for All is in black and white, because I was so sunburned.
So if anyone wants to go and like, you know, you can like color videos.
Yeah.
To go and like reverse engineer that. And
yeah.
Like this sort of pink monster like it's doing there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's funny, actually. Another funny story it ties in. Maybe just as like a finish up rather than have you rushing off to your photo shoot. But the first people I jammed with in a sort of in a band format, if you like, we jammed a bit of All. We didn't do the whole song. I think we were trying to do the breakdown and not doing it very well because it's got some weird times in it, hasn't it? Or something.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But yeah,
I just got a text from the photographer saying 2:30 instead. Sorry for the delay. So it's all right. I'm not in a rush.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, bam, 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 bam,
yeah.
bam, bam. Yeah. That's all about Dave. That bit. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I remember jamming it with them, and I was just like, I was not that like musically educated at the time, and it was quite like, it's kind of what is going on. Like, I know where the notes are. So yeah, but no, I mean, I think like we've covered quite a lot of. Hopefully, people got an insight into some stuff that maybe you don't see on the more musical side, I guess. I suppose there's a wealth of videos of you on the internet, so maybe I've just picked bits that have happened in different videos that, you know.
Maybe. I don't know. It's this has been an interesting chat. I don't normally get these kind of talks. People normally sort of go, tell us what kind of guitars you're releasing for 2025 or whatever, or, you know, that kind of stuff.
I try and avoid that. I mean, this something that I've kind of, it's what I try and do is like Mark Tremonti is my absolute guitar hero, and whenever I listen to a podcast of his, I hear the same thing. Like I know his guitar tone, I know all the stuff, like the musical stuff. I'm kind of more interested in like life and what, because I'm a fan. Like, you know, there are certain artists where I'd say I'm actually a fan. There are some I like, and there are some that I actually follow, and they mean something to me. And, you know, and obviously you will have them. So hopefully people can listen and get that rather than to bringing out, because that's on the website anyway, isn't it? At some point,
you
know. So,
in a way, I wish we'd done this a week and a half from now, so I could tell you some super cool, exciting secret stuff. But I just can't do it, mate.
I mean, I won't ask you to, but it will be out in more than a week and a half. So I'm not going to ask you to trust me, but if you want to, you can.
I have to be super careful because it might take longer for this to launch than it will. But I'll tell you off the recorded thing, and then you can know. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, exciting indeed. Yeah. That's right. Okay, so I need you to ask a question for the next guest, who will be answering your question in T-minus 5 hours and some minutes.
And who is the next guest?
I'm not going to tell you. That's what keeps it interesting.
Okay. And where do they live?
In LA.
They live in LA. Okay.
I think it's Pacific time. I don't know if he's in LA.
So hold on.
Okay.
Give me a sec.
It's all good.
Got it.
Holding on with anticipation.
Oh, I know.
I'm
getting there. Trust me. If they're in LA, they're going to love this.
Okay.
Hey.
I'm going to double check while you're checking. I'm going to double check it's LA. I'm sure it's Pacific time. Let's just check. He said he's in LA, so PST time. There you go. Are you asking about like what's your favorite diner or?
No. Oh, come on, man. This is annoying me.
It's all right.
I'm really. I found. Okay. Hello. Have you been to Ma Keen Vegan Sushi in Westlake Village? And if you haven't, go there because it's the best sushi I've ever had in my life. And the last time I was there, I finished my sushi, stood up, and there was Travis Barker with Kourtney Kardashian sat there just mouthing tons of sushi. And I was like, as if I've just eaten sushi in the same place as Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian. And I was just like, and then I walked out fat full of sushi. That's my question. Have you eaten sushi at Markeen in Westlake Village?
Oh no, I'm going to have to include the whole story. That's my question. Should I say it as if it's me? That's real. That's great. Yeah, I will ask.
Because then hopefully you'll have a whole conversation about food and or you've got Travis Barker, or you've got Courtney. You've got a whole 3 different topics, Stacey. So
good. That you cast the net wide.
Well, actually, no net because there's no fish. It's a vegan sushi place. There's no net cast at all. Purely just veggies, but it's insane good, man. Honestly, it's insanely good.
I can tell we both have the same poor sense of humour because we both said exactly the same thing about the
I'm sorry. This is why you'll be great as a father.
Great. Not what I wanted to hear just yet, but it's not what I wanted to hear on my Friday afternoon. But I appreciate the
always the truth.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, I need an artist for you. If you could plug an artist that you feel deserves a bit of love, maybe that doesn't.
Oh no. Okay, Fantastic Negrito.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic Negrito. He is unfathomably pure, open, raw, just energy, music, creativity. The first time I heard his album, I think it was called Please Don't Die, I was like, oh my God, this guy is unbelievable. And it's so legit, authentic blues rock, but it comes from now, and it's like going back in time but staying where we are at the same time. He's phenomenal, man. Fantastic Negrito.
Well, you've certainly pitched him pretty well, so I think hopefully some people.
He's amazing.
I'm sure, actually, funnily enough, I'm sure I've heard you mention his name and hadn't checked him out. I think it was a while ago.
He's a multi-Grammy award-winning dude, and I just love everything about his music. I think he's a force for creative good, but he's one of these people that is nothing is in his way. He's not in his own way. There are many musicians who are kind of in their own way. He's not in his own way.
That's just, it's an interesting, you can see that when, you see it in people when they're in their own way. You can see it in how I've seen it on stage when I was at a talk with Nuno Betancourt, and he said about how, don't fake it on stage. And I've seen so many people where they're spinning around or they're doing something, there's a facial expression, there's something, you're like, you're not. It's
like show business, do it for the show.
It's like you're not thinking that, you're just doing the face, or you're jumping, or you're doing the jumping because your body is telling you to jump. You're doing it because you think it looks good, or
do it through just the joy of doing it, kind of thing. I used to do dinosaur impressions on stage with Dorje. That used to always annoy our drummer. I'd be like stomping around. He's like, no. I was like, fuck you. I just really enjoyed being a dinosaur while we were playing breakdowns and stuff. I know what Nino means. He's right. A lot of people do fake stuff on stage because they feel they need to be this bigger thing. But, each to their own, man.
Yeah, got to do it. Do what works for you. We're all in the grind.
I mean, ultimately, a dance routine is faking something, isn't it? So it's kind of,
Yeah, I suppose. But, I mean, you can believe it when you're doing it, though, is more the thing, isn't it? It's if you...
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but...
Sometimes if you just do it, you'll believe it, though.
That's true. It's sort of fake it till you make it sounds a bit sort of contrived, but it
does. But in a way, sometimes I think it's better to just do the thing, and then eventually you'll find that feeling that makes it authentic. I mean, I'm still making my life up as I go along, so maybe that's part of that.
Make it up as you go along. There we go. take that away from the podcast. Well, thank you very much, man. I think people will get a lot from that. So thank you.
Cheers, Joe.